Hello trainers, Professor Palm here, and currently, out of all 18 typings we have, there's always been one standout type, in my opinion, and I'm pretty sure to a lot of you out there, and that of course, is the Dragon type. After all, Dragon is a very unique typing, and there were so few of them when they came out. Also, I would happen to say that Dragon is probably one of the stronger typings, mainly for the fact that, just like Ghost type, Dragon is the only other typing that's weak to itself and strong to it. I think that a few claims that do back up that Dragon is probably one of the strongest typings is, we've had so many Dragon Pseudo-Legendaries, many Dragon Type Pokémon that are Legendary Pokémon, and of course, many Legendary Dragon Pokémon have appeared as the mascot for the game. All in all, I happen to think that Dragon not only is one of the most recognizable typings, but I also think that it really is one of the strongest typings out there. I just think it's crazy that there was once a time when Dragon-type Pokemon were so scarce, especially looking back in Generation 1. Nowadays, we have Dragon-type Pokemon introduced in every region. We've had so many dragons introduced to us over the years and in every region. But in my opinion, I think that the region that introduced the most incredible dragons most of all was Generation 5 or the Unova region. I mean, look at dragons like Hydregion. This is an incredible design. I'd even say its counterpart, Haxorus, even shows why Dragon-type Pokemon are so powerful. Even the Tau Trio, in my opinion, are probably some of the coolest dragons we've had as legendaries. Then again, it's all up for debate, but I really would say that the Unova region should be known as the Dragon region, with how many it introduced. I'd even debate that the Unova region was a very thought-provoking region. Not only did they introduce hidden abilities, they also introduced the first pure flying type Pokemon. Crazy to think that for so many years we never had a pure flying type Pokemon. But they also had an idea for a dragon type Pokemon. They thought, what if we made a dragon that doesn't evolve and is perfect the way it is? Oh, and it's not legendary. Well, that was a really interesting idea. And enter Druddigon. In my opinion, this was their first idea of making a dragon that doesn't evolve, and I think that they hit the nail really hard on the head, because Druddigon was an incredible idea. Of course, we've had other standalone Dragon-type Pokemon, but they'd always been legendary, and Druddigon was the first one that wasn't legendary and said, yeah, I stand alone, so what? This Pokemon really broke the mold. In my opinion, I think that Druddigon is a very underrated and unappreciated Dragon-type Pokemon introduced in the Unova region. I think it's a great Pokemon. I'm not saying that it's been cast aside for anyone else. What I'm saying is, I really didn't know anyone when the games came out that really enjoyed having a Druddigon on their team. It was either someone had a Haxorus or someone had a Hydreigon. Either way, I never really saw Druddigon on any Dragon-type user's team. Well, maybe I did see it on Iris's and Drayden's team, but that was kind of about it. Also, a lot of other people made room for the legendaries, which does make a lot of sense. So, do you like Dragon-type Pokemon? Do you really enjoy learning about Dragon Pokemon, or even learning about what makes Dragon Pokemon so strong and incredible creatures? Well, today, I think we're going to go on a Dragon Quest. We're going to go into the cave and find the Dragon's Lair with Druddigon. But before we do that, I want to give a very special thanks to fellow subscribers Yuki Tremor and of course, Puppy Sparkles for the request of this video. You two are Dragon-type lovers, and I hope that you enjoy this video to the fullest. However, you're not the only ones that I'm going to be thanking today. I want to give a very special thanks and shout out to artist HTTP Koopa for my shirt. Today's shirt is the Dragon Jersey, worn by Gym Leader Raihan. Since we're talking about Dragon-type Pokemon, what better shirt is there to wear to Dragon Up? If you like these shirts I wear, I have a link to HTTP Koopa's Etsy shop in the description below. Not only does he make incredible Pokemon shirts, but he also makes other cartoon and video game shirts if that's your fancy. So, if you think I look good in this, I think you'll look even better. So stop buying silly stock image t-shirts and get a real cool shirt made by a talented artist. While I may not be sponsored, I still want to say thank you for all you've done, HTTP Koopa, and making these incredible shirts. Alright, it's time we go for a Dragon Quest. Oh, and please be careful not to take any gold, or Druddigon might rip you apart, because it does not take very well to intruders. So, let's go into the caves, let's find the Dragon's Lair, and we'll find ourselves the wonderful cave dragon itself, Druddigon! Druddigon the cave Pokemon is based on the reptile, the redhead Rockagama, with its red head and its cave-dwelling behavior. However, Druddigon also draws inspiration from European dragons, and its grotesque appearance and becoming immobile when it's cold is very reminiscent of gargoyles, which also turn to stone under these conditions. Well, from according to legends. As Druddigon's species name says, the cave Pokemon, Druddigon make their habitat in caves as well as the rocky areas. These Pokemon really like to live in a very warm climate. Also, they're incredible climbers, and oftentimes make their homes in caves that are very hard to reach. Druddigon have a vicious and cunning nature. They take up residence in nests dug out by other Pokemon. Also, Druddigon can be rather greedy, as they kick out other Pokemon that dug the tunnels, and then they claim these stolen nests as their own lairs. Since Druddigon steal the caves that other Pokemon worked very hard to create, it's made many enemies along the way, and this includes Diglett, Dugtrio, Onix, and of course its main rival in the Unova region, Excadrill. Every one of these cave-digging Pokemon have a bitter hatred of Druddigon. Druddigon was rather special when it was first introduced in Generation 5. That's because at the time, Druddigon was the first pure Dragon Type Pokemon that did not evolve nor evolved from anything, as all other Dragon Type Pokemon had an evolution or were part of a Dragon family. Also, Druddigon is currently the only pure Dragon Type Pokemon that does not evolve that's not a Legendary. Druddigon warms its body by absorbing the sunlight in its wings, and it never, and I mean never, skips on one day of sunbathing, because if it does, there will be severe consequences for it. Also, the more time that Druddigon spends in the sun, the shinier its coat gets. The reason why Druddigon are so strict about sunbathing and do it as much as they can is because when Druddigon's body gets too cold from a lack of sun or warmth, they become as still as a statue and are unable to move or even do anything. Because of the idea of them hardening like a statue, Druddigon are constantly on the move as they go to places that are nice and warm. I guess you could say that they're always chasing Groudon. These Pokemon are so scared of the winter that anything that reminds them of anything snowy, just like hail or a Pokemon with the ability Snow Warning, really terrifies them. Druddigon's red face is a major contrast from its blue body. However, there's a reason for that. You see, the red skin on Druddigon's face is harder than rock, and when Druddigon squares off against its enemies, not only does it use its claws and its tail, it uses its head. And I mean that literally, because Druddigon charges face first into its enemies. I guess you could say this Pokemon really likes to charge headstrong into a fight. Along with its tough head, Druddigon's teeth are very powerful, and they have a very strong bite to it. In fact, if Druddigon was to bite a rock, not only would it be fine, but the rock would break apart. However, Druddigon can lose some teeth, and if that happens, it immediately grows them back. Oh, and there's even legends that say that back in time, if you were to find a Druddigon's tooth, it would bring you good luck, and it would also fetch a very nice price on the market. It's best to leave Druddigon alone if you find one, as it does not take well to intruders. Oh, and when anything or anyone disturbs Druddigon, it chases them through the narrow caves, and then it goes into an attack, ripping its enemy apart with its sharp claws. Just like its red face, Druddigon's red spikes are not only hard as rock, but they are also sharp as an axe, and with one swipe, Druddigon can chop a tree in half, and it can even cut through the thickest of steel with these incredible spikes. As you may notice, Druddigon has a pair of blue wings on its back. However, Druddigon cannot fly. Even the Pokédex has never stated it can fly, nor have we ever seen Druddigon fly in the games or the anime. There's currently no known answer why it can't fly. However, there are some theories floating around, pardon the pun. One theory is because Druddigon lives in caves as well as the Rocky Mountains, it doesn't particularly rely on the wings, as Druddigon really enjoy climbing. Also, using its wings in the cave is a bad idea because of how narrow these caves can be. Another theory states that Druddigon's wings are too small and it cannot carry its massive body. Druddigon are actually much heavier than they appear, as they weigh in at a whopping 306.4 pounds. Yet another theory claims that, like Cranidos and Rampardos, Druddigon likes to use muscle power and sheer force. Since it goes for head smashing with its really strong head, they oftentimes become somewhat dim-wit from the cranial damage, meaning that not only do they forget a lot of things, they also forget that they even have wings. And at long last, we have the fan theory, which is a rather funny one, as it said that the reason why Druddigon cannot fly nor learn the HM fly is because it's not a flying type, nor does it have the ability levitate. While Druddigon cannot learn any flying type moves through level up, nor can it learn the HM fly, Druddigon can learn the TM Aerial Ace, but only in the Generation 5 games. Still, why Arceus gave Druddigon wings and not the ability to fly is a mystery we have yet to crack. Druddigon made its anime debut in the Black and White series episode, The Dragon Master's Path, where it was under the ownership of a trainer named Emmy. Emmy's dream was to go on a journey with her Druddigon, and she was trying to teach it the move Draco Meteor, as Iris suggested that would really help her out. So, she also went for a battle against Ash's Tepig with her Druddigon, which she managed to win. Also in the episode, her Druddigon finally managed to learn the move Draco Meteor. Also in the anime, Druddigon was one of the handful of shiny Pokemon to appear, and in the episode a shiny Druddigon appeared, it was caught by Gym Leader Claire. In the core series games, Druddigon has sadly never been the signature Pokemon of any Dragon type user. However, it has served as the second in command on the teams of Gym Leaders Drayden and Iris. In his champion battle, Alder also uses a Druddigon as the muscle on his team. When Iris becomes champion in Black and White 2, her Druddigon along with her Haxorus return from her Gym Leader team to be used on her champion team. And even Elite Four Dragon type specialist Drozna uses a Druddigon on her team as one of her Pokemon. Sadly, not the ace nor the second in command. If you happen to find a Druddigon in the wild, there may be a 5% chance that it could be holding the item, the Dragon Fang, which raises Dragon type moves power, and it could also be one of Druddigon's chipped teeth. Druddigon and Gabite share the same species name as they're both known as the Cave Pokemon, and on an interesting coincidence, both Druddigon and Gabite are Dragon type. We've entered the battle phase, and Druddigon being a pure Dragon type Pokemon has a couple of weaknesses when it fights. These weaknesses include Dragon type attacks, as Druddigon being a pure Dragon type Pokemon is weak to Dragon, which was really cool back in time, as Dragon along with Ghost were the only Pokemon that were weak to themselves. Ice type attacks. As you know, most dragons are weak to ice type attacks, but Druddigon not liking the cold and freezing up whenever hit with an ice type attack really adds extra power and fear to it when it battles. And thanks to Professor Sycamore's incredible discovery in the Kalos region, Fairy type. Not only do Fairy type moves do super effective damage to Dragon type Pokemon, but also Dragon type moves won't do any damage to it whatsoever. This really makes Fairy type not only a pain for dragons to deal with, but also a big threat. All in all, Druddigon only has 3 weaknesses, being Ice type attacks, Dragon type attacks, and Fairy type attacks. That's a lot of weaknesses for a single Dragon type Pokemon. Well, why don't we check out its strengths and see if it can make up with them. When Druddigon enters the battle, it unleashes its powerful Dragon Fury. Being a pure Dragon type Pokemon, it learns a lot of Dragon type moves that are super effective on only Dragon type Pokemon. Being that Druddigon is only a pure Dragon type Pokemon, that's sadly the only strength it has. So it has 3 weaknesses and only 1 strength. Thankfully, Druddigon also has a bunch of resistances, so when it fights, it knows that it's stronger against these Pokemon and can really do damage on them. On a really cool note, Druddigon is resistant to all the starting types if we count Pikachu being an electric type. So, Druddigon is resistant to moves that are electric type, grass type, fire type, and of course, water type. It's really cool that a pure Dragon type Pokemon is resistant to all the starting types. Also, if you're curious, all other types I left out only normally damage Druddigon. So, even though it has a lot of weaknesses, only 1 strength, and a couple of resistances, it's still a very strong Pokemon to have by your side and can do a lot of damage when it unleashes its Dragon Fury. If you catch yourself a Druddigon in the wild, this powerful cave dragon can have one of 2 abilities. Druddigon can either have the ability Rough Skin, or it can have the ability Sheer Force. Either way, these abilities pack a nasty surprise for your opponent. A Druddigon with the ability Rough Skin gets a little bonus when it fights. You see, if the opponent makes contact with Druddigon with a physical move, Druddigon's Rough Skin will inflict damage to the attacker with its sharp scales. Honestly, we should call this ability Sharp Skin. On the other hand, a Druddigon with the ability Sheer Force really goes for power. Unlimited power! While Druddigon removes any additional effects from its moves, it increases the move's power, so it can have a really fast battle and can have a quick win. It lives by the code, the more power, the stronger. And for hidden abilities that were introduced in Generation 5, the same generation that introduced Druddigon, its hidden ability was revealed to be Mold Breaker, which allows Druddigon to use moves on target and allows it to completely ignore the opponent's abilities. So, Pokemon with the ability Levitate and Wonder Guard, for example, are doomed against Druddigon's Dragon Fury. Druddigon truly broke the mold when it first appeared in Generation 5. I'm really glad that it did. In my opinion, I really think that Generation 5 introduced so many incredible Dragon Type Pokemon. But out of all of them, it really did something different with Druddigon. Instead of having it be a dual type, or even be an evolutionary line, it was a standalone, and to this day, there is nothing quite like Druddigon. I just find it so hilarious that Druddigon was one of the first cave dragons ever. While I do agree Dragonair and Dratini lived in Dragon's Den, as well as Bagon living in Meteor Falls, there really were no real cave dragons until Druddigon came out. So, I really do like the idea that this is actually like a bit of a fairy tale with Druddigon, because most dragons are found in caves and have a lot of treasure. And seeing that this Pokemon really can be greedy and claim a lot of things of its own, I love the idea that Druddigon is one of the fairy tale dragons. If there was any Dragon-type Pokemon that you asked was the most underrated and most unappreciated, it's by far Druddigon. It's a really good Dragon-type Pokemon, and unfortunately, it really has been pushed to the sides. It deserves so much more. I hope that if Mega Evolution ever comes back for a future generation, Druddigon gets itself one. And I would even say that I would love to see Druddigon have a previous evolution, or a baby form. I really would love to see a baby dragon become Druddigon. Anything that really gives Druddigon more attention is well deserved. If the annoying battles with Zubat and Golbat that you often cannot escape from are not enough to keep you from the caves, then Druddigon's Dragon Fury just might be the thing that does. Since it doesn't take well to intruders, it never holds back, and it will slash at anything to keep you out. Don't even try to be brave. This Pokemon has been known to take lives. Oh, and I just want you to be very careful, because if you encounter a Druddigon in any cave, you haven't just encountered a dragon. You've wandered into the Dragon's Lair.
Aha! Welcome back, trainer. Ugh, you smell like cinders and ashes. I told you not to take anything from Druddigon's cave. I'm sorry, but Druddigon do not take well with strangers. So maybe you should go shower off and put on some new clothes. But before we do that, I just want to ask you a few questions. Do you agree with me that Druddigon itself deserved a Mega Evolution, or do you think that maybe some other Pokemon from Generation 5 deserve themselves a Mega Evolution? Did you ever catch yourself a Druddigon, or did you skip over it for a Haxorus or a Hydregion? Also, what Pokemon do you enjoy finding in the caves, and which one do you despise the most when you find them in the caves? What Dragon-type Pokemon introduced in Generation 5 was your favorite? Do you think that one day we should have ourselves a baby Dragon-type Pokemon introduced? Or do you think that it's better off that we don't have one, as Dragon's too powerful for a baby dragon? And I'm curious to know, who's your favorite Dragon-type Pokemon? Also, what typing do you think is the best paired up with Dragon? For me, it's Flygon. I've always loved Flygon, and it was also the first Dragon-type Pokemon I ever raised. Puffy Sparkles, Yuki Tremor, I hope that you enjoyed this video to the fullest. Also, trainers, if you liked what you saw, then please leave a like. If you have any questions, you want to answer any of the questions I threw at you, you want me to cover another Pokemon line, you want me to do something with other Pokemon, or you have an idea that you want turned into a video, then please comment. And as always, if you like what you saw and you want to see more, smash that subscribe button. Also, since I'm a Pokemon professor, I hope that you trainers recommend me to all other trainers out there. After all, that's what a professor does. Thanks for watching, trainers. Palm out!